Welcome to episode 19. I think it's 19 of Can We Talk About Your WordPress Projects? We're going to talk about the project notebook and why that is important. This is a practice we started way back in the day. Before everything was as electronified as it is, we always had a physical notebook. Your project notebook doesn't have to be a physical notebook, but you still should keep one for every single business. If they're in a bunch of folders scattered all over the place, you need to come up with a system for keeping all that stuff together. I'm going to talk a little bit about what is a project notebook, the benefits of using a project notebook, and some best practices. As always, I have slides. I always have slides. I'm going to share my screen. Actually, I'm going to start the slide presentation first and then share my screen. See, I'm learning these logistics. Let's get this started. This helps me remember stuff. I can't see it while my slides are running. And nope, that's not working either. Oh, that was the wrong thing to make smaller. Okay, anyway, doesn't matter. We'll continue on. I'm going to get a third monitor. It's the only way to make all of this work and know what I'm doing. All right. So what is a project notebook? A project notebook is a single repository where you keep all the stuff for a specific project. As shown on this slide, that includes documents, checklists, release notes, prototypes, acceptance forms, change request forms, both the submitted ones and the approved ones. Anything that has your client's signature on it, you definitely want to keep in this project notebook. If that means scanning something in or QR coding something in and storing it electronically, that's fine. But there is a purpose for a physical notebook too. And we'll get to that in a minute. And then especially your lessons learned from the project. That needs to be in there too. And we'll talk about suggested contents. So as I said before, when we were doing this, it was always in hard copy because it was before everything was electronified. And some things like the client's signature on a contract at that time really couldn't be kept electronically. It had to be kept in a paper binder. If you have a combination of a paper binder and electronic, then the paper binder should, of course, include references to where everything is electronically. Of course, all that stuff needs to be backed up. What is the minimum you should keep in your project notebook? The minimum you should keep is all your meeting notes and your acceptance forms, because that's your paper trail. The purpose is to stay organized so you can find anything when you need to. If you need to go back and say, no, Mr. Customer, you agreed to this right here. You've got the actual signature on the actual document. There's no question about that. Not that there ever would be, but you never know how things go. It's just a good idea to CYA, cover your rear end. Okay, what are the benefits of using a project notebook? If you've been in this business very long, you've probably come across a situation where the client says, but I'm sure we agreed to so-and-so, but you didn't. They just assumed that. So as long as you have all these written documents in one place, it serves as a reference when people's memories fade. You can show them exactly what was agreed upon. Another benefit is it helps with continuous improvement. You cannot improve things you cannot measure. If you don't document everything in a project, how can you go back to that project and then get better and do things better the next time? The answer is you can't. And a project notebook is one of the aids in continuous improvement. That's why the lessons learned is so important from every project. The way I used to do it is when I would compile that notebook, before I would put it up on the shelf for posterity, I would always put the lessons learned in the very front, because that's the thing you're going to go back to look at most often. Is what 2 years from now you do, let's say today you did a really super complicated WooCommerce project, like the one that I had, where I had to combine a Weebly website, a halfway done WordPress website, combine that all into one, make it WooCommerce with subscriptions and products. I mean, there was digital products and physical products. It was complicated. If 2 years from now I get another project very similar to that, then I'm going to go back to that book, look at those lessons learned on the first page and go, okay, I'm not doing it that way again for sure. When you do lessons learned from continuous improvement, it may not be something that applies to your everyday business, but it applies to a specific type of project and a specific type of problem. That's another reason to keep that project notebook handy, or to at least keep the lessons learned part handy. It helps with planning and estimating. Once again, you get better with time by looking back at the way you did it before. And maybe we should have estimated more for adding 100 projects to a store. Maybe you'd never done it before and you didn't know how time consuming it was going to be. And now you do. Well, sometimes what I do on the front of a particular project notebook, and let's say it's in a 3-ring binder on my shelf, and it has the description of the project on the spine, I might pull it off the shelf and there might be on the front, never ever do this type of project again. That's a reminder to myself. I don't ever want to work on that type of complicated project again. So it really helps to go back and look at your estimates you did for a particular project and then get better over time. The project notebook helps with that. But the big thing about the project notebook is it can actually be used as a value add client deliverable. Yeah, you're still going to give them, like when they sign an acceptance form for a particular deliverable, you're going to go ahead and give them a copy of that then. But what you also might want to do is compile all of those things into the notebook as a thing you give them at the end of the project, not as a reference so much in terms of anything they would be looking at day to day, like a website care manual or something like that, but just as a documentation of this is everything we did on their site. Everything you keep in your project notebook, you're going to be keeping a lot more stuff in your project notebook than you would actually give the client in the client's version of the project notebook. You're going to give them the stuff that's relevant to the client. For example, if maybe you want to keep a rather terse email exchange between you and the client, because if that ever comes up again, you want to be able to go back to that email thread. You don't want to include that in the project notebook for the client. So you do have to be kind of picky. But my experience is clients love this. And it's something you can talk about when you're trying to get the job, because there's not a lot of other people that do that. You will have complete front to back documentation of how we built your website, why we built it that way, all the agreements, everything will be in one place so you can go back and look at that. And if they ever have another project, say to update their website, if it's got your name and number on the front of that book, they're never going to forget who you are, because they won't forget where that book is. They might forget where your business card is, but they're never going to forget where that book is. So that's why I really like to use a project notebook as a client deliverable. What should you include in the project notebook? This is just suggested content. Your proposal. If you do a statement of work like we do with the 2-step proposal process, or whatever you do in terms of the deep dive discovery, the full website spec, that's what we call the statement of work. All of your interim project estimates, your initial project plan, and how that gets updated over time. We include the initial project plan, and anytime there's a major shift, we include it again. Team member status reports. Now, I don't know that you would give those to your client in their version, but you would definitely keep that in yours. Management status reports you make to the client might be in your project notebook you give to the client, because then there's proof you have kept them up to date all along the way during the project. Submitted and approved acceptance forms, submitted and approved change request forms, miscellaneous correspondence, meeting minutes, anything you just need to document this project. And I can't say that enough. You've heard that old adage, if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. Well, that definitely applies here. Here's some best practices when it comes to project notebooks. You want to make sure you include the tasks for updating the project notebook in your project plan, because otherwise you'll forget. That way you can do it just all along the way, and it's not some big, massive job at the end of the project. That sucks. I've done that before and it sucks. But it's just easier to do it all along the way. If you're going to do a review of this project, let's say you have a team and you're going to do a debrief, the contents of the project notebook should support what you need to have that meeting with your team. You need one notebook per project. Don't try to put a bunch of them in one notebook. It's just easier because you won't remember which ones are in which binders. Create a checklist, and it says or download ours, because there is a checklist for the project notebook inside the WP Project Managers Academy, inside the Project Management 101 roadmap. You want to maintain that notebook day to day and make sure all your team members have access to that notebook and can upload stuff or add things to it. As a review, the project notebook is a single repository that contains all information about your project. A hard copy often works best depending on how you're using it. The benefits are that it serves as a reference when nobody can remember. It helps with continuous improvement, and it helps with planning and estimating. Then your best practices are to make sure you put those tasks in your project plan and you have the right contents in there. Use one notebook per project. You create a checklist maintain the notebook day to day, and give all team members access. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Now I can go back and see if anybody said anything on Facebook. Hey, question. Do you charge the client extra for giving them a copy of the notebook? No, Shanta, that's part of what I'm doing for them. It might be something you want to farm out to your VA though, because it is kind of busy work. But no, I don't charge them extra. That's included in the price I quote them at the beginning. It's another unique value proposition. It's something that sets me apart from the average guy, because the average guy is not going to give you this hard copy notebook at the end that's going to have everything in it you'll need the next time you want to update the website. Friday, our chat topic is legal concerns. Are you covered? Are you sure you're covered? I haven't talked to Nathan yet, but I'm going to see if I can get Nathan to join our chat on Friday. I don't know how busy he is on Friday. We'll see. Because he knows a lot about that. He has his monster contracts. He knows a lot about what you need to worry about being covered when it comes to legal concerns and things like privacy policies and accessibility. If you're watching this outside the Facebook group, please come and join us at WordPress Project Management. If you search on WordPress Project Management, then you click on groups, you should be able to find us. Although I am now having to use the new interface for Facebook and I hate it. Hopefully you'll be able to find us that way. Join the Academy, get through the training. That's the main thing, get through the training. I can't tell you how many kudos and lovely comments I've gotten from people who have gotten through that and taken the exam. I feel so good about that, because you always worry, did I do all this work and everybody thinks it's crap? And so everybody doesn't think it's crap. It really is helping people. That makes me really, really happy. All right, guys, that's the end of Can We Talk About Your WordPress Projects today. I hope all of you are at least considering keeping a project notebook. So join the chat on Friday. We're going to talk about legal concerns. And if I don't talk to you before then, stay productive, stay strong, and never stop learning. Thanks, guys. Bye, y'all.